Welcome back to the Blue Stable Podcast, guys, the official Colts podcast of Fansided. Shout out Fansided with you. I am Michael Peavy, as always, your host, joined by me, as always, somebody who wanted to grace us with his presence once again, Rashad McGinnis. Destin Adam joined the new Hollywood boys of Indianapolis. You know, Rashad, I hear all these new moves, all these breaking news. I hear you've moved into a gated community with, you know, Drew Brees and Cam Jordan, man. Like you even got you and Cam Jordan share the same landscaper. Is that true?
None of this is true. I refute all of the comments being made by Michael and Destin. Did I say that right? Mr. Adams?
You said my name right.
Okay, I was
right.
just making sure, you know. But man, I'm happy to be back, man. I was gone last week. I missed Zach. I missed Zach, a good friend of mine. And I had to apologize to him personally because I wanted to be a part of that show. But I'm happy to be back because now we have a guest that's better than Zach. Don't tell Zach I said that, by the way.
There you go.
Okay.
Hey.
I promise you, Zach is not listening right now.
Oh, wow. Destin, you, Mr. Hollywood, I hear you moved into Chris Ballard's neighborhood.
That is not something I'll refute, just so people think it, I guess. But no, that's not the case. Me and Rashad have probably been on the phone these past couple of weeks, just talking to each other about what we're hearing and trying to confirm here and there. It's like me and Rashad live next to each other at this point. We just have been talking, trying to get as much stuff to Colts Nation as we can. But it's always good to be talking with my boys and getting back on here and talking Colts football.
Guys, and we do. Rashad mentioned it earlier. We have a special guest here on the show, Kent Lee Platte, joining us at Math Bomb, the creator of the RAS. He's just perfect. Kent, come up to the show. Introduce yourself, man.
Thanks, man. It's great to be on. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We just finished up the combine, and the pro day circuit already started. Miami of Ohio had their pro day circuit today, so we did get some numbers on Sterling Weatherford. I'm excited for the whole season leading up to the draft.
I feel like we left out a really important part here is that Kent has a top 5 mustache on Twitter. If you're listening to this on a podcast, you're not being graced with it. You might have to go switch over to YouTube just to see that real quick. But it's always great to have you, Kent. Really excited to hear a little bit more about the RAS system a little bit. I've pretty much just fangirled over it for the last few years. Just love the tool, just love what it's been able to add to the draft process and to my own scouting and so many others. But super excited to have you on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be on, man.
So you're talking about the mustache. Are we not going to talk about this amazing hat that complements it?
Well, I was going to leave that as a surprise that they'd also see when they got on
this
YouTube.
This is like Sherlock Holmes right here. Sherlock Holmes on the Blue Stable.
You guys don't compliment my beard that way. I'm getting awfully jealous of the attention.
It's a great beard, man. I don't even know why. You were saying earlier you thought you'd like to try to grow a mustache like this. I think you could more than pull this off, man. It would
thank you, Kent. You know what? Bring that man back next episode, man. I like him a lot more than my co-host.
Rashad, I'm gonna be honest with you. You couldn't rock the same mustache as well as him. I'm just messing. I'm just messing. I definitely couldn't grow a beard like Rashad has. But
I remember one of my former bosses had that exact mustache, and dude, I wanted to slap the hell out of him every time I saw it, dude. But Kent wears it a lot better. This guy was, this is not, Days of Our Lives podcast, guys. Let's get into what we were supposed to be doing. Kent, talk about the RAS and how it came to be.
Yeah, I started RAS all the way back in 2013. It might have been late 2012, but I'm pretty sure it was early 2013. And the idea was just to create something that would be a little bit easier for fans to understand, to help contextualize all these testing metrics that we get every year. We always had those buzzwords about, this player is quick but not fast, or this guy's explosive, and those don't mean anything unless you have a little bit of context behind them. So I developed a way to look at those numbers in a way that's a little bit more meaningful, puts everything on a 0 to 10 scale. So when a wide receiver runs a 4.52, it's not going to be the same score as when a defensive end runs a 4.52. Because when a wide receiver runs a 4.52, that's a good time. It's not a great time, but it's a good time. But if a defensive end runs a 4.52, that is fantastic. That's an amazing time. And RAS helps to contextualize that, because one of those things is going to be like a 5 or 6. And if it's a defensive end, that's going to be like a 9 something out of 10. People are able to understand 0 out of 10. And then I color coded it. It's got the stoplight color code scheme. Everything's red, yellow, green. People are able to figure that stuff out on their own. But the idea was just to get something that's a little bit more fan-centric so fans can get an idea of whether this stuff is good or not. It wraps everything up into a nice little bow so that you can get an idea of how athletic a guy is in general. And if that's the only thing you want to look at, then that's fine. But if you want to get a little bit more into it, there's a lot more nuance to those numbers if you want to start digging.
So, Kent, I am 6'5", about 300 pounds, and I probably run
like
roughly,
an 11.440.
I was going to say like a 10.6. I'm not getting into the 11s. Would I have more or less than a 0.05 RIS?
Well, that depends on the position you were at. You're saying 6'5", so let's see, 6'5", and what was the weight?
I mean, if you want an exact number, I'm probably at like 280, 288, so 290.
Let's do 288. We'll give you those 2 pounds. Let's see, a 10-second 40. That's probably like a 5-second 20, maybe not 6-second 20. We'll give you a benefit of the doubt and say that's a 3-second 10, which isn't too bad.
I appreciate it.
We gotta get one more number though. We gotta get a bench, vert, broad, shuttle, or cone. So any one of those.
I mean, I'm sure that I can bench more than my body weight from experience. So I bet I could bench
probably like 10 reps.
Yeah, roughly.
10 reps?
Yeah, we'll see.
Right, now, most important part for your score. What's your position? What are you playing?
Oh, geez.
Man, what's going to help me the most?
We're in trouble here.
Let's make you a quarterback. We're gonna be throw some
Jared
Lorenzen.
Hey, when I played flag football in intramurals in college, I'm just saying I won 2 championships. I mean,
hey, it's not too bad. That's a 2.4 out of 10, man. Them size grades.
Come on,
Wow.
come you. Hey, Blue Stable listeners, you just heard this here first. Destin Adams scored a 2.4.
Actually, let's look at wide receiver and see if you beat Jarvis Landry. That's that's my favorite one to do because it ain't hard. 2.35. You beat Jarvis Landry. Let's go.
Wow.
Okay.
So now I just have to get my chart.
For the listeners, I'm not digging on Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry measured at the combine with a bad hamstring, which you should never do.
He did, yeah.
And Jarvis Landry proved why you should not do that. This is a multiple Pro Bowler, 1,000-yard receiver. He had a 0.27 on the scale because his testing was so terrible. It's my favorite card because it encapsulates everything about this metric. You know, you can't take it at face value and say that's the only thing I'm going to look at, because if you did that and you ignored his tape, you ignored a pretty good player.
Yeah.
He wasn't a great tester. I don't think he was ever going to test that well, but he definitely wasn't that bad.
That is ridiculous, man. Jarvis Landry, and he's a talented guy. You know, he's one of those guys that's just a football player. It's not really a specific physical metric.
He's a talented guy, Rashad. I'm just more talented, it seems.
Wow. I don't know about
Dustin's never gonna let us forget this, by the way. Thanks, Kent.
I'm telling you right now, if Kent wants to send me a graph, I'll post it every draft cycle.
My RAS score will be a lot higher than yours, by the way.
Okay, for future reference, because we're not gonna do all of our RAS on here. Okay, Rashad, what position would you play in just for Kent's metric? What position would you play?
I would be a slot wide receiver, of course. But I'm 6'1". I'm about 169, about 168. You know, I probably could get in the upper 410-ish 40-yard dash, probably a 31-inch vertical, somewhere in that range. You know, I think I'd be a pretty solid player. Possession guy, of course.
Possession. Only shorter. In the slot? In the slot?
Yes. I'm going to be the first slot. Not a burner. Can't take the top off of anything. So,
all I want to say right now is I want to see Rashad. Did you just say you could run in the 4s on a 40?
Yeah, like 4.
I'm gonna. My brother.
410 is a 4-1, man.
Okay, that's what I say. My brother is in track in high school, sophomore in high school, and we went out to the Colts training camp and they had the little 40 out. I'm pretty sure he ended up running like a 5.4.
Really?
Yeah. It's tougher than you probably think.
I was a college athlete, Dustin. I want you to know that. I played basketball. I was a college athlete.
What was that word you just said, Rashad? Was that was?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Yes. I was a college athlete, Dustin. Don't you ever forget that, okay?
College athlete, but you're an athlete now, Rashad. You're an athlete now.
No, I'm a media
Tell
guy.
them about those alligators you wrestle, man. Come on now.
No, man. Plenty of ice and Bengay is what I need after any of those workouts that I have to do for the Rascal. I would definitely need to be bathing in Bengay.
This man said Bengay. I can't line up on that on the offense, man. I'm a linebacker all the way. My 40 time would be what it was in high school, a 4.5. And that'll be that. Guys, let's move on here. Okay, we're having all kinds of fun here.
There is a calculator up on the site that you can go enter all your metrics into. It's right at the top of the screen when you go to the website, and you can go enter in whatever your metrics are. I just entered in Destin's and sent to him. You can go enter in whatever you want for your metrics. If you want to say you ran a 4.1, you ran a 4.1, man. That's on you. That's all you.
Definitely go and fill that out right now, Dustin.
Damn, Rashad, you in the wrong business then.
I know, right?
You in the wrong business then. All right, guys, let's move forward along here. We still got a good show ahead of us here, guys. Colts news, or not really Colts news, but NFL news in today, guys. The dominoes fell. Literally, dominoes fell in the league today. Aaron Rodgers is returning to the Green Bay Packers. Don't know what the specifics are yet. Obviously, there was a lot of reports out there about a 4-year, $200 million deal. That was shot down. That was reported false. Aaron Rodgers himself came out and confirmed that. Russell Wilson is going to the Broncos. Just make the AFC more tough. Why don't you? Just make it more tough. Anyways, guys, Rashad, let me start with you here. Aaron Rodgers, of course, we all knew this was going to be the first domino that needed to fall, and now it has a domino effect. Now things are happening across the league. Teams are moving forward to the next plan. So Aaron Rodgers moving on. You know, did the Colts have any kind of chance in that? And your thoughts on him returning?
I know for a fact that the Colts did get in contact with Aaron Rodgers' representation. Doing their due diligence, what you do with everybody that's on the market or available at the time, but there was no serious talks, nothing progressed. It was pretty much between Denver. Well, him retiring was actually a real life option on the table as well, but he decided to go back to Green Bay. I think most people thought he would be back in Green Bay. It's not a shocker. I don't know if anybody was surprised, to say the least, that this game. I think the biggest shock was the deal. I expected him to come in at around 47, 50 mil over Mahomes, who's at 45. I thought it'd be more like a 2-year, 100 million or 3-year, 150. But they ended up bringing him back for 4 years, man, and that's good for them. So Jordan Love won't have to be in limbo and questioning from year to year what's going to happen. I think Green Bay should do right by him and move him to a better situation where he has a chance to actually show what he can do before his rookie contract is up. And we'll see how that plays out on that front, because there's a lot of quarterback needy teams, and somebody I'm willing to bet is going to take a mid to late round flyer on Jordan Love and see if he can play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was earth-breaking news by any means, but I mean, it was the first domino that needed to fall for some bigger things to happen. And did I think that domino was going to fall so another domino could fall directly afterwards like we got today? I didn't think that would be the case, but Aaron Rodgers said he was going back to Green Bay, and Denver did not take time to sulk over that decision. They put their foot on the pedal and went out and got Russell Wilson. Man, that division is scary. I'd hate to play them next year. Oh, wait, we do.
Right, because AFC just needs more talent. Why don't you? Kent, your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, if you would like to chime in here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been covering the Lions for many years, so I'm very familiar with all the NFC drama. Rodgers, I never felt like Rodgers was really going to leave. I think as much the talk as there was between him going to Denver or staying home, I think it was probably more staying home or retiring. And he was just lapping up as much of the attention as he could over the last couple of weeks. But Rodgers' issue in Green Bay has never been that he's not talented enough or that he doesn't have enough talented guys around him. It's just that they can never get all of those pieces moving at the same speed at the same time when they need to in the playoffs. And you got to have an Aaron Rodgers to be able to do that if you're trying to build your team like that. So he's doing more for the Packers than they're doing for him, no matter what this contract looks like.
Yeah. More opportunity to lose to Jimmy G in the playoffs. There you go. So, guys, let's move on to Russell Wilson heading to the Broncos. The Broncos who suck at developing and picking, analyzing, quarterbacks. They got to go trade for one now. Russell Wilson in Mile High. AFC West looking very crazy. AFC in general looking crazy. I mean, KC, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, Ravens, Bengals, Titans. Say what you say about the Titans. They were just the number 1 seed. Not even going to put us in there. You got the Patriots looking up. You got the Bills. You got, 2022 is a wash already. But let me start with Rashad again on Russell Wilson getting to the Broncos and what this means for the AFC.
I just want to start by saying I like when we have company because Mike never starts with me, when we don't have company. So I appreciate you, Kent. But Russell Wilson, man, this one was surprising. I talked to a lot of people about Russ. I knew for a fact the Colts was very, very interested in Russ. Me and Dustin found that out a few days ago when me and him discussed it. We had heard the same things from multiple different people. So that's how we came to the decision that it was probably some smoke there. But the Broncos didn't waste any time, man. I guess once they got the official word that they was out with Aaron Rodgers, they went ahead and pulled the trigger. We know that the Broncos was one of the teams that had made a call to Indianapolis inquiring about Carson Wentz and checking in, I guess, to gauge the Colts' price and what it would take to land him. But once you get an opportunity to land a guy like Russell Wilson, you can't hesitate to pull the trigger. And let's be honest here, they had a much better package than what the Colts would have been able to offer. The Colts not having a first rounder this year and hesitancy to give up young players that they really like that's on rookie contracts. It just wasn't going to work. The Broncos have a top 10 pick, had a top 10 pick this year to offer, along with a future first, 2 seconds. And they had a lot of picks that they could spare. So I think the Broncos still have about 5 picks in the draft that's within the top 150 still. So there was plenty of ammo to go around. They were going to make their move regardless. They were always going to be aggressive when it came to making a trade, making a move this offseason. We know that's how they like to operate. We've seen them do a similar thing when they went all in after Peyton Manning. Those guys really don't mess around, man. Whenever they see something that they like, whether it's in free agency or on the trade market, they're willing to give up what it takes to get one of these guys that I think you absolutely have to have when you're trying to compete with the elites that's in the NFL right now.
I mean, I think Rashad covered most of it. The thing that I'm just going to keep going back to, I don't understand why veteran quarterbacks had Denver so high on their list. I mean, I get that their targets were there. I get the defense. I get all that. But why would you want to go play in the AFC West right now? If you're Russell Wilson, you just came out of one of the best divisions in football for the last multiple years of his career. So he decides to go to, yet again, now going to be one of, if not the most talented division in football. I just don't get that mindset. Why would I want to play Mahomes, Herbert, and Carr 6 of my games next year? I just don't get it. I mean, when Tom Brady hit the market, he made sure and went off to Tampa Bay where he got to play a Drew Brees on his last leg. And then the other guys, like that's who he had. So I don't understand why Denver was that high on people's lists. I know it's a pretty desirable location from players, and I understand that he has talent there. It's just, I just feel like the AFC West is going to be very hard for a number 1 seed to come out of the AFC West now. I feel like that's going to be nearly impossible. Now, is it possible that they have 3 teams make the playoffs out of the division? It definitely is possible. But we'll see what happens. The Broncos definitely got better. Don't get me wrong. I'm just still confused of why the Broncos are so high on everyone's list.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I really don't. Denver, very bland, very boring. But I can jump off a sled.
Denver is not a boring place. Let's chill out.
Oh, Jesus, right. The most
Don't forget
exciting
skiing is a thing.
Right.
Oh, skiing. Let me move to Denver so I can ski, guys. Okay. Anyways.
Name a better destination if you like to ski, though.
Croatia.
Do they even have football in Croatia?
I was about to say.
I mean, technically they do, but it's like soccer here. You never hear about it.
You'll learn that Mike just kind of pulls things out. He doesn't need anything to back it up. He'll just say something, hope that it's confident enough that no one questions it.
Entertainment purposes only, guys.
They got a whole league. They have the Croatian League of American Football.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, really?
Yeah, overseas football is really not that big.
Oh, should I send them my RAS score?
How much are you willing to
see if I get any feelers?
Can we go play for the Zagreb Thunder?
They are among my possible destinations.
If Germany gets an NFL team, you got to go there.
I just picked the only team name I could pronounce. I can't pronounce any of these other ones.
Oh my gosh, good stuff, guys. Kent joining us here from RAS, from Math Bomb on Twitter. Rashad McGinnis, Destin Adams already on the show here again, guys. Let's get into some quarter or draft talk, really. And I'm going to start with Kent on this one. All right, we're going to talk about the biggest thing, especially for Colts fans, because we really don't have a good quarterback right now. It's still on the roster. This quarterback class is starting to get a little bit more hype. Obviously had a good, better than thought combine coming up. What are your thoughts on this quarterback class in 2022?
Yeah, and it was really pretty predictable when the combine came on that it was going to get a little bit of hype because we know that Malik Willis can throw. He's got a great arm. So when he went out and did the throwing drills and he was showing off that arm, that was going to get him some hype. We knew that Desmond Ridder was a fantastic athlete. I actually expect him to do better than he did, and he did really, really well. Kenny Pickett has always been a good athlete, but a lot of people didn't really consider him a good athlete. They thought of him more on that Mac Jones kind of above average, but not great level, but he proved that he was a much better athlete. So it was always going to get a little bit better. But I think what people get wrong about this quarterback class is they look at it, and you hear people talk about it as a bad class. Now, I think that's a bit of a misnomer for what the class actually is, because there's plenty of talent in this draft class at quarterback. The problem with this class versus other classes is there's a lot more risk in this class than there is in a lot of other ones. Malik Willis has that arm. He has that athleticism. He's got all that deep passing and a lot of really great traits. And obviously the character is there. If you guys were paying attention to any of his interviews, the stuff he did at the combine, all those traits are there. So what's the issue? Well, he plays for Liberty, which is not the biggest program in the world. He's not playing against SEC competition. He's not a multi-read quarterback. His offense doesn't ask him to make a whole lot of reads because he's so athletic. They're just like, make one or two, and then you get scooting, and he does that. So that risk comes in where you don't have this really purely polished passer that you can put out there. Kenny Pickett is a really good passer in his final year of college, but he's got tiny hands, minuscule hands. If he does get drafted in the first round, he will have the smallest hands of any first round quarterback drafted ever, tying with potentially Mike Vick. I think Mike Vick had 8.5-inch hands.
He needs to copyright baby hands. He needs to make it like his brand almost and make this into a positive.
He's already got a pretty good nickname. It was Kenny Two Gloves, man, which is a pretty good nickname. Granted, he's wearing the two gloves because his hands are tiny.
They're just 8.5 hands.
But it's a risk thing, right? Desmond Ridder is a little bit erratic as a passer. Carson Strong comes in with some very serious knee concerns. His knee injuries are there, and he isn't as mobile. But it's still a talented group. So it's just a matter of risk management that gets this quarterback class a bad reputation. It's got plenty of talent.
So Kent, you didn't even mention my quarterback one.
Coral?
My boy.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious of your thoughts. I mean, you left him out, so I'm assuming you left him out because like best for last kind of thing, and you just wanted like a big old build up for it. I understand.
4th round pick. He'll be there. He'll be there at 47. He sucks. No good.
He's my QB too. I have him behind Willis, but he's a really good passer. There's still concerns about his size. He's very small for a quarterback. Obviously, Russell Wilson proved that you don't have to be a big passer to get a lot of stuff done. But it does show up on tape occasionally, especially when he gets on the move. He's got plenty of athleticism, fantastic arm, comes in a bit of a gimmicky system that doesn't really translate as well to the pros. But again, that's a risk thing. That's not a talent thing. He's got that arm. He's got the athleticism. He's got the accuracy. It's just a matter of what you can do and how quickly when you get to the NFL. Matt Corral does have some of the biggest wow plays you're going to see out of the entire draft class, but he's also got some of those like wow kind of plays. I mean,
yeah. Oh, so the ones we like to call the Carson Wentz plays.
Yeah, you're just like, what was that supposed to be? Like, what was the win there if that actually worked?
Yeah, like pump faking an RPO and an offensive lineman being 10 yards downfield. But, not like we have any history with that or anything,
Jesus.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Corral for me is, I mean, you mentioned the arm talent that's there. I think Malik Willis definitely would rank higher arm talent-wise in this class, and I have Corral behind him there. But I guess what makes him go over Willis for me is just I think Corral at his floor is a much better player than I think Willis is at his floor. I've said this multiple times throughout this cycle. I have been doing my own personal scouting. I believe this is year 7 for me, personal scouting wise. And I don't know if for a first round type quarterback that I've had a lower floor than Malik Willis. Like it's just nerve wracking to me there, which is why Willis is 2 for me. And I have Corral at 1.
Yeah, we always talk about whether a quarterback can work outside of structure, right? And you've also heard people talk about whether a guy is able to work in rhythm. A guy like Mac Jones gets a reputation as a rhythm passer because that's where he does his best, and things start to break down. He doesn't do quite as well. Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff. We have other guys like that in the NFL. Malik Willis just doesn't have that because he doesn't ever work in structure. Most of the Liberty offense was designed about Malik Willis being able to do Malik Willis things. And he didn't really get much of an opportunity to play that type of offense where everything was running in rhythm. He has moments where he can do those things, but just because it has wheels doesn't mean it's going to roll downhill in a straight line. There's other things that go into that. And that's where those concerns come in is, can Malik Willis work inside structure, or does he have to have no structure for things to work? And that's where that Johnny Manziel risk comes in, because Johnny Manziel had the same thing where everything was outside of structure, and then he just couldn't work in a structure.
Yeah, and Manziel, we actually saw him against top competition. At least he competed, at the highest level in college. We still didn't get to see that consistently enough from Malik Willis. When I went to the Senior Bowl, when I went down
you went to the Super Bowl.
I did go to the Super Bowl too as well. Yeah, correct. But when I went down to Mobile for the Senior Bowl, and I got to see him for the first time in person, Malik, the ball literally explodes out of his hand. He has a cannon, and it's literally one of those things you watch it and it looks different. Seeing him throw with the other 5 guys that was at the Senior Bowl, it was a difference between when he let the ball go. He literally rips it. It cuts through the air. But once the 11-on-11 started and chaos was around him, you can see he just didn't respond. He just didn't look comfortable as a guy like Kenny Pickett, who's my QB1 in this draft. I just feel like he has the highest floor. He's the most likely to come in and be able to play right away. And no, I don't think he ever will be a top 10 quarterback, a top 12, maybe even 15 in the NFL. But I think he can be a consistent pro, a guy that's in the, I think his ceiling may be close to a Derek Carr type of guy if he hits his ceiling. But I think he'll hover around an average starter as a quarterback in the NFL. But I think he is pretty much ready to compete right now. He's seen it all. He was able to put it all together for this last year. The hand size does bother me, especially when you have guys that's going to be flying around you swinging at that football. And you're going to have to constantly move in the pocket. And it's going to be hard for him to protect the football. But, if he puts a little bit of stickum on those gloves, and maybe he can maneuver and he'll figure it out, man. I think he'll be okay, but I definitely think Malik Willis has the highest ceiling and a guy that actually has superstar potential if, it's a big if, he goes to the right system and goes to the right coaching staff that's going to actually put the time in and develop this kid, because he's not ready to play right now as we speak.
And I know people hate to use like past evals to evaluate current players. But I mean, if Josh Allen doesn't have his year 2 jump, Does Malik Willis go in round 1 right now? Because I don't think he does. I mean, you're able to see what Josh Allen was able to do, and he had that same level of just being able, when the ball goes out of his hands, like your jaw dropped watching Josh Allen that draft cycle. But then like the thoughts came in, like he's at Wyoming, he's playing, his big game of the year was against Boise State. Like those type of things come into your head, and it's like, is Willis similar to a Josh Allen now? And I really do feel like that if Josh Allen doesn't have the success he has had in the NFL, that Malik Willis is probably someone that is being pushed down boards because the risk is too much. But I think there are enough pros that I think Malik Willis will end up being the first quarterback off the board. Doesn't mean that I would do that, obviously, but it's how the NFL works.
So, Destin, this is dating back to last week's show with Zach. You talked about floors and how you've never seen one lower than Malik Willis. Does that mean Brock Purdy has a higher floor?
Well, I've definitely made sure to throw in the
first round,
the first round Val into my talk here, because as we knew last year, Sam Ehlinger was my least favorite quarterback eval that I've done in a very long time, and then the Colts just had to make my day and draft him. But so obviously there are lower floors that I've evaluated, just not of guys that are going to end up going in the first round.
There we go. All right, guys.
Let's not mention Brock Purdy again, okay? It's 2 weeks in a row, Mike, and that's our quota for the offseason.
Bro, we have Sam Ehlinger on our roster. Don't tell me I can't mention someone on this show, man. Come on. A draft card
it's been blacklisted. The name Brock Purdy is blacklisted.
A draft card was turned in last draft for Sam Ehlinger, okay? Let's get into the biggest shockers and, biggest letdowns of this combine, okay? So, Ken, I'm going to start with you for the biggest shocker. I'm not sure if we're all going to have the same one. I don't know, but biggest shocker from this combine in Indy. Where are we going?
So I'm going to cheat and immediately break a rule before I do that, just because I know Destin will appreciate it. But Brock Purdy had one of the lowest grad scores for the quarterbacks of the combine. He had a 4.27 unofficial. So just so you're aware.
It's okay. We're not past this show. We're not past the show yet. So the quota technically can still be spoken about this show.
Yeah, so we're talking about guys that were shockers, right? And there was really two negatives that came out of the first day of the combine for the wide receiver group, which was David Bell. And David Bell came in and people had questions about his athleticism, and he did not test well at all in any category, actually. That he just didn't test well in any category. People were immediately scrambling for the who tested poorly. Is he Anquan Bolden? Is he Wes Welker? Which bad testing guy can we start comparing David Bell to? And I don't know where that answer is. I think he got hurt the most from the combine, especially with how fast everybody else ran on that track. The other one was Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks' number one player comp when we finished the combine was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, which is just not where you want to be in comps when you're billed as this great athletic freak who's getting all this hype. And that's not his fault. That's the fault of people that are evaluating him. When he's getting billed as this freak athlete, and then he comes out and he's testing the same as like the wide receiver 4 on the Eagles, it's probably not great for a guy that wants to get pushed up high in the first round. And I don't know if you saw it earlier, but that the Vegas odds for where he was getting drafted dropped dramatically. I think he was plus 300, dropped to plus 600 for being the number one wide receiver off the board. It's not great, not a great showing. So I think both of those guys got hit pretty hard from the combine.
So, I mean, about David Bell, I genuinely am confused by how people thought he still tested worse than I thought he would, but I don't know how people watched his tape and thought he was going to be a big combine winner. Personally, like when you watch his tape, it just looks like a guy. I think he's very intelligent. I think you can see it on tape. He's a very intelligent route runner. He's a very intelligent football player. Great kid. But I just didn't understand why people thought he could be someone that lit up a combine. It's just not something that was going to be for him. personally.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have taken him in round 2 anyway. So maybe this just helps my already case against him going in round 2. But Treylon Burks was going to be mine as well because I had him at receiver 2 before the combine, just because I saw just so much explosion, so much things that I could see him being on tape. The combine showed a lot. I got to see him in person, being in the combine, being in the stands that day. And I'm a little concerned about him in the slightest there now. Definitely not going to end up as receiver 2 if I had to guess. I'm hoping that his pro day comes and he's able to show some things that aren't, the normal pro day rigging that can happen here and there at pro days. But I think Burks surprised me more than any other person that day, just because I really was expecting just a guy just to light it up. And obviously that is not what happened. Now, on the other spectrum of a guy who surprised me in a good way, and I was pretty high on Jelani Woods already, just because I saw a lot of the traits on tape. But man, he was moving out there in every drill. The 40 obviously showed up, but Woods, man, just looked like an athlete. He's going to have to get a lot of polishing and coaching at the next level before he's going to be able to be some amazing playmaker, but he has the uncoachables just already there. He's going to be a freak of nature wherever he goes. It's just, are they going to be able to coach that to the ability to keep him on the field?
Yeah, Arkansas has a fast track, so Burks has a good shot at running a lot better at his school. Jelani Woods had a 9.96 RAS coming out of the combine. That 4.61 at 6'7" is just crazy height to speed ratio right there.
Rashad, where are we going?
Oh man, y'all took some of the good ones. I had Treylon Burks and David Bell. As far as somebody that I don't want to say they dropped, they just didn't impress me as much as I thought they would. I'm gonna go with Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah. He didn't look as fast as I thought he would. On tape, he's a maniac to me, in my opinion. Sideline to sideline type speed. He shows great instinct, real physical. But the testing, the speed aspect, the 40-yard dash, I believe he ran what, a 4.66?
4.66, yep.
Yeah, 4.66. He just didn't look as fluid in his lateral movements, start stop ability. It just wasn't there for me, and that was real shocking because I thought he was going to be one of the guys that really hit it out of the park, but that just didn't seem to happen. As far as a guy that really killed it to me, and this was a guy I saw at the Senior Bowl as well, and I was really intrigued because I didn't start digging into this guy until I seen he was announced on the Senior Bowl roster. So I decided to go kind of do some homework before I make it out there to Mobile. And it's Tariq Woolen from UTSA. Familiar with UTSA because my brother coached there before he went on to coach the Chargers, then some Rams. He spent 1 year as a defensive coordinator for UTSA. So I'm familiar with a lot of those guys that's over there. But this guy can flat out fly, man. He is an athlete in every sense of the word. I believe his RAS score was a 10 or 9.9.
10 right now. He currently has the highest RAS for a cornerback ever.
Yeah, what more do you have to say? The guy was flying. I believe he ran a 4.26 40-yard dash. I thought that was an unofficial time. I had to keep refreshing to see if that was the official time, and it was. He just looked fast. At the Senior Bowl, he was clocked in at 22 miles an hour, so I knew he was going to come to the combine and put on a great show. Great size, great length. The guy has ball skills. If you watch him on tape, he's a competitor, man, and I think he did a lot to improve his stock going into the draft.
And there's not a lot of 6'4" cornerbacks out there.
That's ridiculous, man.
He just slightly beat my RAS.
Just slightly, yeah.
Just like,
yeah.
Real quick.
I am a color.
Beat it by less than 10. That's single digits.
Real quick, before we get into winners and losers from this combine, I got to ask each of you because it was a topic that could not stop being talked about. So, Kent, I'm going to start with you. Should the combine stay in Indy?
I believe so. I think that it's not just a tradition thing. For me, everything's about standardization. One of the things that they've always tried to do is keep all of these tests as standardized as possible. And we saw why, because this year, we had a lot of really bad times coming in. The times kept on having to get adjusted. They were adjusting them during the day. It was the first day was an absolute nightmare. But that kind of stuff is just not acceptable when you're trying to test guys for a standardized system like we have for the combine and the pro day circuit. This is the combine's 38th year, and they're trying to move it in year 39. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if the NFL is trying to do it to make the combine as an event more marketable, they crapped the bed this year on making this more marketable. This was a pretty poor combine the way that they put it on. If they think that moving it somewhere else is going to do it, they're putting an emphasis on the wrong things. They need to fix when they're doing the drills. We had two whole position groups, the defensive back or the cornerbacks and the running backs, just skip agility drills because they had them doing them after the drills, the on-field drills. Who's going to do that when you're just running around on the field a few minutes ago? It's just really poorly put on, and they need to fix that stuff before they even try to consider moving out of Indy.
And so I'll share next because you guys like to call me a homer because I'm the lone Indiana native here on the podcast. And honestly, I mean, this is the first year that they've allowed fans in. So it's not like I've benefited from it being in Indianapolis. Want to make that known. But I think the biggest thing here is, I mean, Kent just kind of spoke about how long it's been here and there's still things they're improving. The thing is, the medicals that they've gotten through at the combine, they've almost expertized it to the point where they know where they're going to be. And if adding more moving parts to this such a complex moving machine like the combine, to me, just doesn't make sense. Now, we all know the reason that's going to go down and why they're probably going to end up moving from Indy. The NFL wants to monetize anything and everything they can. They want to make these cities pay more instead of Indianapolis having this set fee that they've basically been able to have. Now, I feel like it was a really good week for the keep it in Indy motion because every coach that came on NFL Network, every person that I bumped into in downtown Indianapolis, I got to be with Peter King, Adam Schefter, Stephen Holder from Indianapolis in a downtown bar. I was down there with them for like 2 hours, and we were just having great conversation about why it needs to stay at Indy. Coaches kept sharing that reason. There were coaches saying they don't even know if they'll send their teams to watch the combine in person if it goes to LA or if it goes to Dallas. And that's not from me, and that's not from this biased Indianapolis native that you're going to hear Rashad and Michael call me when they get to share here in a second. That's coming from NFL coaches, NFL GMs, NFL personnel that are saying, do not want it moved. That's not going to matter at the end of the day. It's all going to come down to money. If I had to guess, it's going to end up going to Dallas or LA if I had to guess. But should it? It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. I think they're just kind of putting a little bit of selfishness into it. But it is what it is. The draft was at one location for a long time, and they ended up moving it. So it's the NFL, people.
So I guess I'll bring this here. I've never been to Indianapolis. I've never been to the combine. I've never been credentialed as media to go to the combine. So I don't see all behind the scenes stuff and all that. So I can't really talk about why or how it operates there. I do trust everybody that comes out and says the hosts are great. I mean, we all know by now how great of a sports host city it is. They just hosted the national championship game for college football. They hosted the Final Four last year, the entire tournament because of
I was going to say,
yeah, the entire tournament they hosted there because of the COVID restrictions and everything. Not wanting
with
too
less
much
than a month to prepare.
Yes,
with less than a month to prepare. I'll brag about Indy anytime you guys want to give it a chance.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to give it its credit. It's hosted the Super Bowl, all that good stuff. When it comes to, are they being selfish for moving it? I mean, it's been in the same place for 37 years. I mean, we can't really say it won't benefit from being anywhere else when it's only been in one place. Now, when we think about the combine, are we trying to make it a fan event, or are we trying to make it a real football for college kids interview? Now, from that point of view, we're trying to make it full-on professional business. Have kids here, test, they're here about business. Okay, I can see it from that point of view. But again, Dallas, a sports city, that they're one of the greatest sports cities out there. LA, maybe not LA. I just see too much traffic going on in LA. But even let's just say Dallas, Jerry Jones. Who has more of a pull on Roger Goodell and the NFL than Jerry Jones? That stadium, that area of Arlington, you got the new Rangers ballpark, a gigantic sports bar that was just built around the corner from the stadium. You got hotels, you got accessible. I mean, it looks beautiful, a good setup. I'm not going to crap on Indianapolis. I'm not going to crap on a city or an event that I've never been to. But I will say, why not try other cities? For the draft, it's a little bit different because it's the draft. I love the fact that they changed it from one city because you're going into different cities. You're going into different fan bases, and you're getting to interact with the fans more. It's a fan event. They're creating it as a fan event. I love that. I would like to see them try it with the combine too. I mean, what is the worst that can happen? I see more pros than cons, or maybe if I'm just not all the way educated about the combine, which that is a real possibility. I'm not truly into it like Kent, like Destin, like Rashad is. So if I'm sounding ignorant, I apologize. But I'm just in the realm of why not try it?
Do you really want hundreds of screaming nerds like me with weird hats and mustaches cheering on NFL football players? Is that what you really want?
I mean, these college kids have kind of been in the craziest environments in college. So is it any different?
I mean, I was there this year as a fan for the first fan experience. You
Right.
weren't even able to cheer during events.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, no, and it makes sense because they're all attempting to have these certain times and stuff that affect their draft stock. I enjoyed being there. It doesn't make sense to me to be a fan of it personally.
I actually want to disagree a little bit because I think the problem is that the NFL is going about this the wrong way. I think that you could turn this into a fan event if you changed the events a little bit, if you made them a little bit more exciting. Everybody loves the 40-yard dash because it's fun. Guys are trying to run really, really fast. The vertical jump is just not exciting. The broad jump is just not exciting. The agility drills are only exciting if you know what the heck they're doing them for. But the NFL does a really bad job of marketing these things and trying to make fans interested in a way that's meaningful. One of the things that I really liked about the Detroit Lions over the last couple of years is that they've increased their ability, their fan experience at their training camps. You know, training camp was always just, hey, if you're a fan and you want to go show up at training camp, you can. There's no stands. You can stand around the edge of a fence and you can watch them from halfway across the field. And that's pretty much the best you're going to get. Well, over the last 7 or 8 years, they really started changing things and they made it so that you can get a little bit closer. They added more fan amenities. They added better food. And I went to Gen Con this year down in Indy. Indy can get food when they want to. They've got a good food scene when they really want to. You can do those types of things to increase the fan experience. It doesn't just have to be about the on-field product. And the NFL is not even trying to make anything off that. And if they want to go to a different city, that is a perfect way to market other cities, because you talk about Dallas. Dallas has great food. If you do something that increases the fan experience and that's the type of stuff you're doing, that's great. That's something you can push. You know what else you get from that? Marketing. You get people to sponsor it. You can get all kinds of sponsors for that kind of stuff. There are ways to do it. And this crazy multi-bajillion-dollar corporation is just like, no, we're just going to push everything into as short of a period as we can to make these guys so exhausted they don't even want to do the drills. And half of them are going to just skip out on the last couple of them. And then we're going to move it to different cities that we've never had on it because our logistics are so terrible that we're just going to try a different place every year and hope that somebody gets it right. It's such a bizarre approach for them to take.
I can't get on with trying it every year. No, this is still trying to set something up for doctors, NFL organizations, college players. I can't get on with changing it every single year. That can't happen. But for Dallas, you're also getting into
that's what you're opening, Mike. As soon as they change it,
get it to Dallas. Get it to Dallas and stick with it, because not every stadium, not every city is made for this type of event. Indianapolis is one of them. LA, Chicago, Dallas. I think it would also be cool because you're dipping into one of the highest recruited areas for NFL talent when it comes to college. You can go to Duncanville High School. All these high schools can get to the combine and just watch and just present it to other high school players. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to get into a full-on thing because we still got to get to other stuff when it comes to the draft, but I'm just open to it.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. You're a Texas kid, too, so I understand.
I also want to drive 2 hours and not have to fly or pay $400 for a plane ticket.
And I understand that. I guess what I'm telling you, though, is even if the thought process of going to the next place and hoping it sticks was what their mindset was, I could get on board for that a little bit, but that's not what the plan is. The plan for them is going to be that every single year cities are bidding to have this event in their area to make it similar to what the draft has become, similar to the Super Bowl, things like that. They're trying to monetize it that way, which is why that consistency and that planning and having this down to a T is never going to be there anymore, in my opinion, and why we're going to have some rough combine years where those prospects just get screwed. And we'll have more people that have less RAS scores than Destin Adams. That just can't happen.
That can't happen, guys.
I got a resolution. Just move it to New Orleans. We have great food. It's not too far away from you, Mike. And Dustin, we have great food. So, there we go.
Who wants to run after eating gumbo, though? Ain't nobody ever eaten a bowl of gumbo and thought to themselves, you know what I need is a track. I got to put my shorts on to go run it.
What are they gonna do? Run on Claiborne and just run down to the Superdome from Cajuns?
That's how I ran my 4-1-40. Watch out now.
All right, guys, let's get going to the winners and the losers from this combine. This will be the last segment of the show here. Once again, Kent Math Bomb on Twitter joining us here on the Blue Stable Podcast, the official Colts podcast of Fansided. Let's get into the winners first, okay? So, Kent, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who is one of your winners that benefited the most, that made a big name for themselves, rose their stock this past week?
Yeah, Jordan Davis out of Georgia came into the combine as a nose tackle. The guy that's he's your big road grinder. He's the guy that's going to eat up space and all that. And then he just put up one of the best combine performances of any player in the history of the combine, which at 341 pounds is more insane than anything that we've ever seen. The guy is just a marvel. So now teams have to figure out, is he just a first-round nose tackle, or is he a top 15 interior penetrator, a guy that we can put on the inside and really disrupt the pocket? And I think that's going to be something that teams are going to have to watch really, really closely, because that's a lot of athletic talent to go to waste if you don't use him right. Christian Watson out of North Dakota State had a fantastic Senior Bowl, and his stock has just been rising and rising and rising. He came into the combine with the thought that if he did really well, that he was a potential first-round pick, and then he crushed the combine. In every drill that he did and in every test that he did, Christian Watson just killed the combine. Another guy's probably a little bit out of left field for you guys is Cole Strange out of Chattanooga. He's a center, plays some guard. But he came into this as that smart, cerebral guy, the guy that's maybe he's not as athletic as everybody else. I don't think there were concerns about his athletic ability, but they weren't coming into this thinking that he was going to test as off the charts as he did. When you have that reputation as being that smart and cerebral player, and then you add into that you've also got all that athletic talent, the question just becomes, where do I get you on my offensive line? You got a lot of questions that you just answered. And I think that he did more for his draft stock than any other offensive lineman at the combine.
Okay, yeah, so he had some wars at the Senior Bowl with Travis Jones, Cole Strange. It was good to see those two go up against each other, man.
I could watch Travis Jones all day too, man. I don't know if you guys know that one specific thing about me is I love athletic big men, man. Athletic big guys can cause so much havoc in a football field, and we got two of them in this draft class.
So my winner is going to be a little unorthodox, and it'll cover all three of my spots and some. I'm going to say just the Georgia defensive defense in general, because
oh my God, that's so cheating.
But is it? Because they just flat out played. And honestly,
athletes everywhere.
And I want to say winner more is like the Georgia recruiting. When all these guys are going to get drafted day one, early day two, that's only going to help their recruiting ability. And they're in the SEC anyway, and for all this being able to pay players now anyway. So Georgia's not going to be hurt. But, I mean, you just mentioned Jordan Davis. Dude looked like a whole different kind of animal out there. In my opinion, I think he locked up going top 10. Somebody is going to need a guy just manning the interior of their defense. And like you said, going in, everyone thought he was kind of pigeonholed as a nose tackle, but he's going to be able to do just about whatever you want him to do. And somebody's is gonna take him in the top 10. I just believe it. But Georgia's just kept performing. I mean, Devontae Wyatt went out and played. I mean, Trayvon Walker to me was one of the most impressive. When I watched him go 4.51, like Rashad said earlier, when you were refreshing, I was refreshing because I thought it was faster when I watched him. I was like, I swear he was in the 4.4s because he was moving. He shot up my board to get off the defensive line a little bit. I mean, safety Lewis Klein had a day. He ran a sub 4.4. I think ended up being like a 4.38, 4.37, somewhere in there at the end. The Georgia defense just went out and performed. They're just going to have so many day one, day two picks. It was just incredible for them.
Rashad, where are we going?
I want to go to some of the smaller receivers. I'll go with a couple of guys: Sky Moore, Calvin Austin, Bo Melton. Those guys, they performed really well, man. They all look explosive. Short area quickness is great. Obviously on film, those 40-yard dash, all those guys were 4.3, sub 4.4 guys. They put on a show, man. Not to leave out Wan'Dale Robinson as well. It was a bunch of guys that tested well, man. And they're smaller guys. So it's important that you see that explosiveness from them because they're not going to be bigger body guys. They're not going to be Drake London, David Bell, Traylon Burks, bigger guys that's going to just be flat out ball winners and make contested catches. So those guys need to show acceleration and explosion to be able to separate at the next level, because that's what they're going to strive off. That's what was going to be their bread and butter. That's how they're going to make their money, is through separation. And I think a lot of those guys showed the ability to just flat out run away from people. I was really impressed with Calvin Austin, man. He's a monster. I've been high on Bo Melton, a guy that a lot of people don't talk about enough, but he flat out performed at Rutgers with a terrible quarterback. It didn't matter. He made play after play after play. And he's one of those guys where, he passes the eye test. You look at a team like that and you see him on the field, you say, oh, okay, that's the guy. That's the high school kid, the stud, the guy that's going to get the ball 30 times a game and it's just going to go for 200 yards and run around the rest of the kids. That's the type of guy Bo Melton was at Rutgers. And I think he's going to make somebody really happy, either late day 2 or really early day 3.
Yeah, I think a couple of mine. Well, I mean, the other one is going to be Ahmad Gardner. I think there was a lot of stuff on him about his athleticism, how fast he is. Turning in a 4.4 or 4.41 40 time was pretty good, kind of washed that little narrative away. Still performed very well. His hips, his fluidity, all that stuff still looked good in the drills. So really like that he kept on cementing himself as CB1 again, for anyone that needs it again, CB1. But another guy that I really didn't see the explosion from him at Baylor was Tyquan Thornton. This is a guy that, I didn't see too much at Baylor. He was their number one guy. He did it. He did everything for the Baylor Bears. I didn't see this 4.21, 4.28 official time. I didn't see that. He should be going up draft boards now. He is a guy that now is kind of in my line of thinking, where are we targeting in the 3rd, maybe the 4th, if he's even there. Depending on how everything goes, he is a winner because I did not see that speed at Baylor. And the fact that he put it on there at the combine, he's now rising up draft boards.
And he's not a small receiver either.
Yeah.
No, he is not. He is big and long.
Baylor brought the whole track team to the combine. They just unleashed.
I think my favorite eval post-combine was somebody put for Thornton. They put, he's Deontay Johnson, but taller and can catch. And I literally I was rolling in my seat after.
Well, if he's that, then let's take him.
But I mean, just moving on to losers a little bit here. I want to go first because I don't trust you guys to not say some of mine. And I am gonna start. The easy one for me is Kenny Pickett because I think the big narrative with his hands just kind of took over his entire performance, and I think it kind of just clouded his entire experience, and that just kind of sucked for the kid. So I feel like putting him in the loser category it's a little unorthodox, I guess, because I don't think his performance in the throwing drills and those things should get him there, but it just felt like it was the only narrative being spoke about him, and that's not what he wanted to happen coming out of this week. The other two are going to be performance based, and they both happen to be Indiana associated kids. Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame was already being pigeonholed as not being a true 3-down back. He went out and didn't perform well in the 40, ended up running about a 4.65, which was among the worst for running backs. I think it may have been the worst.
It was close if it wasn't, but yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah, to run a 4.65 and already just being known as a guy who we don't know if you can be the 3-down back, it just kind of is going to keep pigeonholing him a little bit. When I watched him at Notre Dame, I definitely thought he looked faster than a 4.65. So maybe he's a guy whose pro day will come around and we'll see that he just had an off day. But it was a bad combine performance for him for sure in his stock. The other one, I mean, Zach Hicks was talking about this guy last week about how he knew he was going to perform poorly at the combine. And he was right, and Purdue fans are going to turn off again. George Karlaftis, I didn't understand how people were giving him first round hype, but there's no chance this guy's going in the first round anymore. It was not a good combine for sure. And I just also think his tape is not good enough to overcome a combine performance like this. I just think he's a guy who whoever took him, they're going to put more expectation than who he is. Because I really think he's a guy that talent wise should probably be going in like in the 3rd or 4th round. He's probably going to end up going in the 2nd though.
Kent?
Yeah, Karlaftis has a lot of explosion, but he really needed to do well in the 40-yard dash, or at least do okay in the 40-yard dash and the 3-cone, and he skipped both of those drills. And for some people, that's just going to be like, well, we know why he skipped those drills because we know that he wasn't going to test well. And frankly, that's not a dumb thing to do, to skip those things. But he really had an opportunity to put some of those concerns to bed, and he didn't take that opportunity while other players did and did much better. So that ain't great. You already mentioned Kyron Williams. He's probably the biggest. I don't really like using the term loser. It always feels like you're insulting the guys. But his
stock fell.
His stock fell. Yeah, he didn't run a whole lot from this. But one guy that I don't see mentioned a whole lot is Darian Kennard out of Kentucky. He's not a guy that came in with expectations that he was going to test off the charts. Yet he's not some ridiculous uber athlete or anything like that. He's a big armed tackle. But he didn't test well in anything really. He just came in and showed that, well, he's still really big and has really good arms or arms. He has 35-inch arms, but there's nothing really else to him. And the only really narrative that I got from Darian Kennard coming out of the combine is, well, maybe he'll play guard. And when you want to make it as a tackle in the NFL, if the best thing you get from the combine is, I think he might be a good guard, that's not a win. That's taking what you can get. That's not a win. So I think he probably came out of it pretty harsh from all the offensive linemen.
Yeah, there's position flexibility, and then there's, can he play any of these? They're different. People like to put them in the same conversation at times, but it's a different narrative to get attached to.
My biggest, I don't want to say loser now. Kent made me feel like an awful.
Wow. So I went first and called everybody losers. Now everyone wants to get nice.
It's all about positivity, man.
That's okay. Just say any Purdue players.
That's the real reason for the mustache. People will compliment me on the mustache, and then I get to compliment them on stuff. We're keeping the cycle of positivity going.
But it's okay. You can say whatever you want about Purdue players. They turned it off as soon as we talked poor about Bell early on, and now I said something about Karlaftis. So the little bit of them that were here are gone now.
I'm still getting backlash from Russell Wilson getting traded to Denver. I don't know what that has to do with me, but I'm currently being cursed out in my mentions. So I'm going to play nice. But my biggest stock faller is, well, not biggest, but a guy who didn't help himself to me was Daniel Falele. He really to be such a massive guy, I mean, huge guy, absolutely mountain of a guy.
Huge.
For him to only put up 24 reps on the bench, that was a bit discouraging. It was among the bottom 5 where he ranked at, and to me, he's way too big of a guy. That has to be concerning to some teams. And I know that's not the end all be all, how many reps you put up on the bench at 225 or whatever, but it still has to be a red flag. And I don't know if it may cause him to fall out of the first round into early second round, maybe mid second round. But I definitely think that he popped up on some radars, let's say that. And another guy that I wanted to mention was Jake Ferguson. Looked good at the Senior Bowl, showed flashes that he can be a guy that can block really, really well and get out and move, but the speed was not there. 4.8, 140-yard dash, I believe. He just didn't look quick, didn't look explosive. 31-inch vertical up. I just can't. I think he's limited to a blocking tight end. He's going to be a blocker at the next level, maybe a Jack Doyle type of guy. We didn't speak on that either. We didn't even say anything about Jack Doyle retiring. We forgot to mention that.
Man, Jack, you rule. I apologize for that. I think the thing about Ferguson that hurt him more too, even, is that the tight end class in general just tested so well.
Yeah.
That like his stock almost fell just because everyone else's rose, it felt like. And
Right.
like you said, to have that liability there when there are guys that did test well that are also very good blockers still as options, it's definitely going to hurt his case a little bit in this tight end class, because it's going to be a fun one, because I feel like we're going to get multiple starters out of this class.
Multiple starters.
I'm gonna jump back in because you guys are great. You came up with all these great players that have interesting storylines about them. I got to jump back in on a couple of these. Jake Ferguson, one of the things that really goes into it too is he came into the combine with this reputation of being a pretty mediocre athlete, which can be a death sentence for a tight end. I mean, like you said, that's just a blocker at that point. And as far as the NFL is concerned, if you're not a dynamic athlete at tight end, you're the guy blocking for the much better athlete. That was his reputation coming in, and he proved that when he left the combine. You mentioned both Karlaftis for Destin, and then Rashad, you mentioned Faalele. And what's interesting about both of those guys, and when it comes to the bench press, is arm length. The thing about arm length and the bench press is that it's just basic physics when it comes to how much more difficult the bench press is for guys with longer arms versus guys with shorter arms. And both of these guys came into the combine as reputations of being really strong guys for different reasons. Faalele is more with size, and Karlaftis, I build as one of the strongest pound for pound guys in this draft class. But Karlaftis has short arms for a pass rusher. He only has 32 and 5/8 inch arms, which is short.
We like to call him T-Rex.
And he only put up 21 reps. Short arm guys that put up low reps is not good. The bench press is not the most exciting drill, and it's one of the least correlated to success in the NFL. It doesn't even really display strength that well, which there's a lot of other drills that do. But if you're a guy that's billed as being super, super strong and you've got short arms, so there's no excuse for not putting up a lot of reps, that's bad. That's not a good sign, because now people are going to have that question. Why is it weight room discipline? Or are you just not the kind of guy that goes into the weight room? There's some coaches that will just be done with you at that point, because that's what they want, is those guys with that weight room discipline. Faalele's got a little bit more leeway because he's got really long arms, because he's such a massive human being. I talk about every year about how large offensive linemen are, because I'll get guys that come in with they're like 6'5", 310, and their score will be in the red for size. And people are like, "Whoa, why is that bad?" And it's like, it's not bad. It's just small for an offensive lineman. These are gigantic people. These are the biggest people you'll ever run into. But for an offensive lineman, that's small. And Faalele is huge for an offensive lineman, the largest position group in the NFL, and he's huge for it. And those really long arms. But if your billing is for strength, you do want to see more than that. And putting up just an average number of reps, that comes into it too, because maybe he just got done, was like, okay, I hit my number and I'm done. And that's where that question for weight room discipline comes in again. I'm not saying that's what he did, but that's what coaches might look at is why couldn't you do more? You're this big, strong guy. Why couldn't you get more? And then they start digging into those whys. So you guys just had me excited to talk about more guys. So I had to jump back in for those ones.
Yeah, everybody giving 3 guys and everything. We thought we were just giving 1, but I'll just stick with 1. I'm gonna go Jermaine Waller, cornerback from Virginia Tech. The 40, I believe. What did he run? Like a 4.6, 4.62 or something like that. Not fast at all. All his counterparts ran high 4.3s, high 4.4s, and he was down in the 4.6. A guy that I thought could be a day 2 pick. Not really looking like that anymore. So definitely a loser. I won't let you be alone in this, Destin. A loser from this past week from the combine.
I'm never afraid that Mike's gonna be too nice.
Right.
Y'all seen me nice before. Don't lie. Y'all seen me nice.
No.
That was a 4.68 that he ran, which is
4.6.
That's not good at all.
That's not good at all. No. Nah. He'll get burned by Destin.
Although 4.68 at cornerback, that could still be a second round pick if Matt Patricia's somewhere making.
He's back in New England, right? He's back in New England as a special assistant. I don't know if he gets any say. Bill might put him in the corner and just tell him he can sit there with his little hat on and a whistle, but he's there.
Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, it was the Lions general manager and former head coach. Those guys loved guys that were just slow as all get out in that second round. That was like guys that it's like they targeted it. They were like, if you run faster than anybody at your position group, we ain't picking you. You got to be the slowest.
I bet the Raiders would.
Oh Jesus! Nah, what did Trayvon Mullen run? He didn't run that well, did he?
Did he?
I don't know. I remember him coming out of high school. I mean, he was one of the more sought after 5-star corners in the country, but I don't think he timed
4.46.
4.46.
Too bad. That's
not too bad.
That'll play.
That'll play. Yeah.
His splits weren't the greatest, but his 40 was all right.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, guys, before we get out of here, it is a huge week in sports, basically. And of course, shout out Jack Doyle. Announced his retirement yesterday. He will be gone. 84. Got to do what a lot of people that don't get to do, play for the team you grew up cheering for. He'll stay in Indianapolis. Any tributes to Jackie Jack?
There will never be another guy you watch on Sundays that catches the ball and starts falling down forward immediately as well as the Jack Doyle. It was a form that I never understood, but it always led to first downs. I will never not be thankful for all the first downs on third downs that he brought us. And I mean, everyone said it, old reliable Jack Doyle. People may have complained about him not being the fastest, not being the biggest, but he was always there when the Colts needed him. And like you said, hometown kid, went to Cathedral High School in Indiana. His family's from Indiana. He's going to be in Indiana post. Just him and his wife just had a kid even. Super cool story. Not many people get to do it, like you said. So super happy for Jack that he was able to do that and be a Colt here and just be able to retire on his own.
Jack Doyle, longest tenured Colt that we had, him and T.Y. Nothing but respect for you, man. You was a model teammate. You came in, you worked your ass off week in and week out. And there wasn't a 3rd and 5 in the world that I didn't have confidence that you would convert for this team, man. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all that you gave. You competed your ass off, and if we get a replacement that's half as dedicated as you, then that would be a big reward for us.
All right, yeah, we got to get Jack connected with Kent. He's got the beard going, but we need to get Kent to teach him how to get that mustache going.
Jack beard with Kent mustache. Ooh,
there
that's
you go.
Saucy. That's a saucy combination.
Elite. We'll have to make an RIS just for facial hair. That's
there you go.
That'll be the 10.
I'm a Zion McCullum type tester when it comes to facial hair. I have to be a 9.8 or somewhere in that range, man.
Yeah, right. You don't even comb that, do you?
No. Why would I comb it?
See, the effort is what stands out.
There you go. No dedication, no drive. Anyways, guys. For all you basketball fans out there, best of luck to the Purdue, the Indiana fans out there that are, hoping for a miracle in the tournaments. Whatever the case may be, March Madness is getting going. TCU is going back to the tourney, baby, making that Final Four run this year. Time to cut down the nets. We're bringing a pair of scissors with us. Shout out to Fansided. We are the official Colts podcast of Fansided, guys. Shout out to Kent. All right. Where can we find you on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm always on Twitter. You can find me there at MathBomb. You can also check out my website at ras.football. Try to make it nice and easy for everybody. And if you're feeling like a little froggy and you want to try out your general manager hands, you can head over to profootballnetwork.com/mockdraft and try out the mock draft simulator. I run that as well. So got a little bit of everything for everybody this offseason.
There we go. Sherlock Kent Lee Platte, everybody. Thank you for joining the show, man. Giving us your insight, your knowledge. Very appreciative of it, man. Can't wait to have you on again. Actually, give us some more of the knowledge I know I needed in the draft department. So, guys, he is Kent. He is Rashad. He is Destin. I am Michael. Thank you for this episode again. Next week, it's going to be crazy. Free agency's getting going. We might have something going on. 1 week. 1 week. It's getting crazy. It's getting lit. We'll see you next week.
Damn it, Michael.
Oh, what's up? Before we go, everybody, what's up?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say shout out to Jermaine Johnson. I had a chance to speak with him. Hopefully we could get him on the show. But I did talk to him for a while. I talked to him at the Senior Bowls actually when I first met him. And I recently talked to him again. I know his agent personally, real good friend of mine. And he just confirmed everything I wanted to see out of him at the Combine. He's my favorite edge guy. He's my edge 4 currently behind Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Aiden Hutchinson. But I love his game, man. He's dynamic. He's a developing pass rusher, but he's already probably the best run defending edge setting guy in the Combine. I mean, in the draft period. So that's all I wanted to say, man. Shout out to you, Jermaine.
Right. Hollywood Rashad, more Hollywood Rashad. Right. He's camping in the guest house of your new mansion in New Orleans. We get it, Rashad. Okay. All right. Anyways, guys, once again, thank you again to Kent joining the show, guys. We'll see you next week.